Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talkingdevils.co.uk, your number one independent Manchester United podcast. This is a slightly different podcast we're doing this Friday night. So this is our Manchester United versus Middlesbrough preview in the FA Cup. But this could be more pre-match up than actually, chatting about an upcoming Premier League game and starting 11 predictions and all that, because obviously Rav's picked his 11 and stuff like that. So we will chat about all that on the show. So as always, joined by former Manchester United players, Phil Marsh and Lee Lawrence, and we're here today to talk all things Manchester United and all things FA Cup. Here today, first of all, before we kind of dive into the FA Cup conversation and stuff like that, first of all, Phil, how's things? How's your week?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Just the usual week in work, but back playing football. Felt like I've not played for quite a while because we had game postponed due to the weather, and then a game postponed a week later because one of the lads had a serious injury. So obviously had 2 games this week. Good to get back playing, and 2 decent results, to be fair. So just getting back to a little bit more normality. But yeah, everything else is great. Thanks, mate.
That's good. That's good. And I see you scored again the other day for Pickleton FC. So yeah, look, you seem to be on a bit of fine form at the moment.
Yeah, doing well. I mean, again, it's it's one of them. We've sort of had a bit of a rough time previous to the last couple of games with injuries and COVID and suspension. So just glad to be back playing and sort of, I've had a decent goal return this year so far. I think I'm on 19. So long may that continue. We've got a tough game tomorrow against the 3rd team in the league, who's obviously a decent side. So we'll obviously need to be on our top form really to get a result there. But we're aiming to get in the playoffs, which we're sort of in and around at the moment. So yeah, that's the aim.
It's good. And look, if we can get a playoff place, it might be a nice day out for yourself, myself, and Lee. It could be a nice day out and a nice little party in Manchester or wherever that may be, and come that time, especially if promotion happens. But Lee, also, how's your week been? I suppose Man United are back this week. They hadn't had the chance to kind of ruin our weeks this week, but how's your week been?
Good evening, guys. Yeah, I've had a great week again. Thanks, mate. Looking forward to the podcast, but I'm kind of looking forward more to it ending so I can watch a game of football for the first time in a few weeks, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, look, we've all been starved. Obviously, the African Cup of Nations has been absolutely fantastic. I've watched it all kind of these last couple of weeks, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sick and United weren't playing. So as much as they break my heart, it's always good to kind of watch them every week. And look, I'm going over to the game next week against Southampton, which that podcast will be next Thursday rather than next Friday because we're all meeting up for the first time. Well, Phil and Lee I've met loads of times, but I'm meeting Phil, Lee, and Wayne for the first time next week. So that should be a good crack anyway. And I'm going to beat Phil in table tennis anyway, but that's another story for another podcast. But we're here to talk all things Manchester United here today. And obviously, look, the FA Cup this season is a massive competition for Man United now in terms of the way our season has kind of gone. Obviously, the top 4 has been I suppose it's where United want to be this season. At the moment, obviously, still in the Champions League. We're in the last 16. But Phil, obviously, I come to you first. In terms of how you're feeling, in terms of this game against Middlesbrough, so obviously they're under Chris Wilder in the Championship, and they seem to be doing quite well at the moment. Obviously, quite notably, one of their best players at the moment is Paddy McNair, who's obviously a former Manchester United Academy graduate, like the both of yourselves. But how are you feeling coming into this game? Are you optimistic with Manchester United's chances?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really optimistic. I think tonight's a great chance for some of the players who's coming back into the team, the likes of Pogba and potentially some of the youngsters who may get a taste later on in the game if things are going well. So yeah, just looking forward to obviously seeing the team and obviously watching them play. We've missed them sort of in the last couple of weeks with no games. So just excited really to see the team back playing. I think it's a great tie for us in terms of it's a home tie against the sort of lesser opposition, but obviously as you just touched on there, I think Middlesbrough will be organised. They'll probably have 10 men behind the ball majority of the night and try and sit in and make it as difficult as they can for us. Chris Wilder, obviously experienced manager, very good manager, did really well with Sheffield United in his time in the Premier League. So yeah, I think it's going to be a sort of tough evening, but I've no doubts that we've got more than enough quality to, get us through this tie. And I tweeted out before about obviously, being a massive sort of push for the FA Cup. I think this is probably our best chance of winning a trophy this year, and I think realistically, I'm hoping that we can, go quite far in this competition and give it a good go with obviously the position we're in the league. And obviously it's unlikely that we're going to win the Champions League, although that is something else that we could potentially be a bit of a dark horse in. But I feel the FA Cup is a proper, like, real good opportunity for us to sort of get ourselves back into sort of winning something, and it'd be a massive confidence boost for a lot of these players who haven't really had that feeling of winning a trophy. And that could be then the catalyst that would take us on to being a bit more successful. And once you get that feeling of winning a trophy or a cup or whatever it may be, you want more of that, and we're hoping that that'll be the start of many in the next coming years.
Yeah, I think, look, this competition can be a massive catalyst. I think just for this season anyway, because I think if you look at what's after happening there? Well, okay, I was wondering what happened there. I was like, the lads have gone off the screen. Must have pressed the wrong button there. But yeah, I think it could be a massive catalyst for this season. I think if you look at, obviously, knocked out the League Cup, I thought the League Cup would have been a great kind of springboard, especially now you look at hindsight, Man City are knocked out of it. They've won it the last 3 or 4 years. I think the League Cup could have been a competition for us to win this season. But look, I think the FA Cup, providing we get the right draws, and I think if we get enough home draws against decent opposition, I think we can win it this season. That being said, I think, look, it's very important you're in contention for it every year, because traditionally Man United do have a vast history of competing for the FA Cup every year. So I think for me, looking at this current crop of Man United players, you look at like Marcus Rashford, you look at the likes of Jadon Sancho, players like that, who are kind of relatively young and haven't won that many trophies. I think for players like that, it's very important. And look at, obviously, like the Diogo Dalot, younger players like that, they need that kind of taste of success to kind of kick on to kind of that next level. So, like, for me, I'm really looking at this competition this season. I think, especially for Ralph Rangnick as well, I think as an interim manager, it'd be nice for him to win a trophy, before he moves upstairs. I think that'd be a great platform for the new manager to come in to work with, and instill that winning mentality as well. Because I think that Europa League last season was a massive miss. I think, obviously, look, a penalty shootout, it's kind of one of them things, isn't it? Like, it was a freak kind of instant. Obviously going to 14 penalties or something. Eventually, we lost the Europa League final. But look, we are here now, and we are playing Middlesbrough. And look, Chris Wilder's teams are always tough to play against. Like, without a shadow of doubt, Chris Wilder's team, like Sheffield United team, came to Old Trafford last season and beat us. So he knows how to beat us. He knows most of the players that we have in the team at the moment. So, like, look, it's one of these things now where I'm really looking at it, and I think it's a massive opportunity. It's a massive opportunity. I think, look, sooner rather than later, we need to start winning trophies now, because we're off 4 or 5 years now without a trophy. That's not the way Manchester United are built. Even the time when we went 3 or 4 years without a league, we were still picking up FA Cups during the Sir Alex. So, like, we do need to start picking up these trophies to instill that winning mentality into this team, because I think that's something we're slightly missing as a group at the moment. Like, obviously, we've players like De Gea, Ronaldo, Pogba, players like that, who've won trophies for Man United in the past, and obviously elsewhere as well. So for me, it's a massive, massive opportunity to kick on. But Lee, I'm going to come to you, because the lineup has come in there in the last couple of minutes, and I'm going to come to Dave's comment on a certain player starting. But Man United's lineup has been announced, Lee, and United's lineup is Henderson in goal, Dalot at right back, Harry Maguire and Rafael Varane at centre back. Luke Shaw returns from injury at left back. Then we have a midfield three, it looks like, of McTominay, Holden, and Pogba and Fernandes in the 2 number 8 roles in the 4-3-3. And then we have a front three, a very strong front three in Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, and obviously the greatest of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo, up front. So looks like Ralph has gone, obviously, a full team. Obviously, Baron De Gea, who is not playing this game because Henderson is the cup goalkeeper. So Lee, just your instant reaction kind of to that lineup. Dave obviously made a comment there, and I'm going to actually put this in line with your reaction. Paul Pogba is back into the team. Obviously Fred was on international duty with Brazil. He's only had to come back 2 days ago. Do you think this is the right game for Paul Pogba to kind of slot back into the team and kind of get that bit of match fitness ahead of Southampton next week?
Keane, can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We've lost Lee, but I'll pose that question to you, Phil. Obviously, look, Pogba's back in after a long layoff since that Liverpool game, and look, we obviously have Southampton in the Premier League next week. Big game for our top 4 hopes. Is this the right game to bring Pogba back in? And you think it's a good decision by Ralph to kind of integrate him in a game against Middlesbrough, like with no disrespect, kind of lesser opposition to what's going to be in the Premier League next week?
Yeah, most definitely. I think this is a great game for Pogba to come back in. I just feel as though, with the amount of possession that we should be having at home against Middlesbrough and stuff tonight, and we should be, dominating in that aspect. I think it'll be a good game for him just to sort of come back into it. Obviously, not played for quite a while, so match fitness is probably going to be a bit of an issue for him. Maybe last, 60, 70 minutes and see how we go. But yeah, it'll be a good game. Obviously, he should have a lot of the ball. It'll get him back, his eye back in a little bit. Hopefully, as I say, he won't be too sort of rusty, and it'll be a good sort of preparation game for him to maybe play against Southampton and just sort of sharpen himself up. So yeah, I think it's an ideal opportunity really for Ralph to slot him in against the lesser opposition and just see how he goes from there. As I say, he might not last the full game due to his fitness and stuff, but if he just gives it everything for as long as he can and sort of as a decent game, it'll give him a bit of confidence and obviously much needed match fitness after being out for such a while.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm delighted that he's back in. I think this is an ideal game, and I think, look, if you look at Ralph's overall philosophy in terms of what he wants players in midfield who are good in the ball. So I think for me, having Fernandes and Pogba as 2/8, I think that will make this system work. And Fred's done very well, though, I have to say, in that number 8 role, like in terms of the box role. I think we lost Lee again. Give me 2 seconds. I'll send him the link again and see what's happening there. But just with regards to this, I'll bring Lee in now. Lee, can you hear me?
I've just got back with you, mate. Yeah. Sorry. Go on, mate.
So just with regards to this, Lee, obviously Pogba's back in. And look, it's obviously a massive opportunity for him to kind of regain form, regain match fitness. And look, his partnership with Bruno in the midfield 3, though, has been very good under Solskjaer, albeit in a 4-2-3-1. When you look at the 4-3-3 side of things, Lee, obviously different formation, Pogba plays in his more natural role as a box-to-box, as does Bruno. Do you think these two can work in this system with McTominay as one sitter?
Yeah, I think it can work, to be honest, mate. When you've just read the team, I jotted the team down just before we come on, and the only difference I had the same formation. I just had I thought they might have brought Wan-Bissaka in at right back and give him a bit of game time, and they also had I thought they might have rested CR7 tonight. I thought Cristiano would have got a bit of a break with Tuesday in mind, and I thought they might have started Lingard, but I had the same formation in the rest of the team, so. I'm glad he chose, quite a strong starting 11. I feel like I didn't want him to give some young lads a chance in the start. I'd prefer us, to hopefully get a comfortable lead and bring the young lads on afterwards. Regarding Pogba, I'm glad he's actually is coming back in. Listening to Ralph's press conference, what he did, even if Pogba doesn't want to stay with the club, he's going to want to be performing at a top level to get obviously the best move in the boss contract he can get elsewhere. So why not use him? Why he's here to bring the best out of him and hopefully drive us on and get us through to the next round. So yeah, I'm glad he has started. Obviously, if he does want to leave, then I can understand why people are saying don't put him in and carry on with Fred, but. I think we all know on his days he's a much better technical footballer than Fred, and both on the day you'd have Pogba over Fred any day. So yeah, I'm happy that he's starting today, and hopefully it'll work. Like you say, we've got 2 world-class midfielders there playing, starting. So I'm anxious about today's game, but I'm also excited I've got a good feeling about today. I think we, we're going to see the best out of some of the lads today, and hopefully get a convincing win.
Phil, Lee mentioned a phrase there, anxious but excited. Obviously, look, it's a very strong lineup. It's basically our first team, bar De Gea. That's probably our strongest 11 at the moment. Well, you could probably debate Lindelof and Maguire if you look at form this season. But man for man, I think at the moment this is our strongest 11. Is this a potential banana skin tonight? Because obviously Middlesbrough are very organised. They're very rigid in the way they play. But obviously, look, they actually have a decent record at Old Trafford, for the large part. Is this a potential banana skin tonight for United?
I think anytime you play in the FA Cup, there's always that, what if and the potential for a shock. So, yeah, I mean, as you've just said, Middlesbrough will come. I think they'll be, quite negative in the way they approach it, which is understandable coming to Old Trafford. But, yeah, I mean, they've done it before and we've seen a lot bigger shocks in the FA Cup, through the last few years and sort of in the history of the Cup. So it could happen, but I'm quite confident tonight. I'm hoping that the players he's picked will all be sort of chomping at the bit to get back playing, back in front of hopefully a decent crowd at Old Trafford. And I feel as though there's too much quality on the park tonight that that should be able to get a result against Middlesbrough. So I'm hoping and I'm feeling like it should be a good night for Man United fans. I think there'll be quite a few goals, and I'm hoping that if we can get an early one, then the floodgates might open. But again, if Middlesbrough can keep it tight and stay in the game, maybe till half time, and we haven't scored, it could be a difficult night for us. But yeah, I'm thinking we've got far too much quality there tonight to sort of not get through this quite convincingly.
Yeah, I think if you look at the overall quality that we have, I think especially that front three, like Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo. Rashford's obviously scored a couple of goals in these last couple of games. He's really kind of picked up his form back up. His confidence looks like it's back. This is a massive chance for Jadon to really get a couple of goal contributions tonight, really kind of lift his confidence. Because one thing I've noticed about Sancho this season is he's been very creative, but we haven't been scoring on. He's put in a lot of great crosses, a lot of great passes into the box, and players haven't been putting them away. I seen a stat the other day that Jadon Sancho has actually created one of the most chances in the league where players haven't put them away. His numbers are up with the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe, though Mason Mount, players like that in the league. Sancho's chance creation numbers are up with them players who have a very high assist rate this season. So, I think tonight, if he can get balls into the likes of Ronaldo, getting into Rashford, if Bruno or Pogba, I think with them two playing in midfield now, what we will have is 2 box-to-box midfielders who will make late runs into the box. Kind of in Scholes, kind of slash Lampard-esque, kind of roles. So, I think for Sancho, if he can get a couple of goal contributions tonight, I think it'll do wonders for his confidence. And look, I think if you look at the way Middlesbrough are set up, they play kind of 5 at the back, and they play very tight with that. I think United tonight, we do need to play on the front foot, and I think hence why Ralph has probably looked at it and said he looked at their system. He's probably looking at it and saying, Scott, you sit, and you screen the back 4, and then Pogba and Bruno, the impetus is on them to kind of create. I think that's the way it's going to be tonight. But look, as you said, Phil, the magic of the FA Cup is always there. And you just never know. Leeds United came to Old Trafford in 2010. It's similar enough to Middlesbrough. They're in League One. Obviously, Middlesbrough are a championship team, but they're Jermaine Beckford. United put out more or less nearly a full team, and Leeds beat us at Old Trafford 1-0. So, look, these shocks can happen. But look, I think with this United team we put out tonight, I think we will win this game. I do think maybe the first 15, 20 minutes will be tough. I think Middlesbrough will be organised. But I think once we get a hold of the ball, I think we will tire them out, and then we put 2, 3, 4 past them. I really do. But I'm just going to come to Dave's comments to you, Lee, on the back of this, because you mentioned obviously Pogba maybe playing for either a new contract at United or maybe a new big contract elsewhere, obviously, albeit being a free agent in the summer. Dave says here, do you think we should try to get Pogba on a new contract? Looks like he doesn't have many suitors. He hasn't really set the word alight at the club since we bought him. Personally, I'd let him move on. What boat are you in now with this league? Because obviously we have a new manager coming in, or it could be Ralph. We don't know yet, but it's either going to be Ralph or the three names who have been mentioned at the moment is either Pochettino, Ten Hag, or Luis Enrique. Now, if it's any of the three of them, I dare to say Paul Pogba might be in their kind of plans. For you, regardless of who's in charge, and if you look at maybe all these names who are linked or who are all attacking managers who like control, do you think the club should go above and beyond to keep Paul Pogba, or do you look at his history at the football club and you think, yes, we might get enough out of him in these next 5 to 6 months, but has he ran his course at Man United?
Yeah, but personally, I like Pogba as a player, but it's on his day, and it's very rare what we've seen in a Man United shirt over the years when, you know, he gets a consistent run of games where he's on his day and he looks like the world-class player, which we all know he could be. On a personal level, I think he and his agent create too much drama. I feel if a player doesn't want to be at Man United, any player, no matter who it was, I wouldn't want them there anyway. I'd want people who was 100% committed to the cause of Man United. And it doesn't look to me as though Pogba is. It looks to me as though, like we've mentioned umpteen times in the podcast, about the loyalty thing, and that's gone. It's gone with hell of a lot of players, and, you know, Pogba's no exception to that. I think he'll go where the money is, where he can get the best deal, and not because of the love of Man United. So, although he is a good, you know, really, really good midfield player on his day, one of the world's best on his day, I still wouldn't have him at the club if he's not 100% committed. And like I say, that goes for anyone. Jesse Lingard's another guy, you know, he's come out these last couple of, was it yesterday, and said, you know, he's 100% committed to the cause, and kind of undermined what Rangnick said about him. But if he was 100% committed, he wouldn't be posting social media, you know, pictures when he was at West Ham and things like that. So again, for me, let the guys go. It's a matter of principle for me, really. So yeah. To answer Dave's question bluntly, I'm in the same boat as Dave. I'd personally let him go and find a decent replacement. There's plenty out there. We just need to get a decent replacement for him.
Yeah, I think, look, in the Pogba one, it's a tough one for me because obviously, look, he's a world-class player. There's no doubt about his ability. He's a world-class player. I think if you look at his form, best time at United, it coincides with Bruno coming to the club, because two of them got the best out of each other. And like, especially when we came back from the lockdown, when it was Project Restart, when we had that midfield three of Matic, Joe, Bruno, Pogba, like, we were fluid in midfield. We were dominating games. We were retaining possession. We were doing fantastic. But then Pogba obviously got caught with COVID, getting hit with injuries, and that's kind of been, obviously not COVID throughout his whole United career, but obviously injuries have been massively kind of hampered that. Obviously, there's been times where his consistency has hit. But one thing I'd always argue with Paul Pogba, and I always argue this, is you look at Pogba that plays for France, you look at Pogba that plays for Man United. He plays in the same position for both clubs. What's the difference between France and Man United in terms of midfield? Pogba has N'Golo Kante beside him, has a midfield player. They sit and do all the work that Pogba shouldn't be doing as a as the kind of attacking midfield player. Like, one thing I'd argue is if you look at Pogba's midfield partners at Man United since he's come, who has he had beside him really that's kind of, you know, a top level player? Barring the Man United who was coming towards the end of his time, you had Fellaini, Morgan Schneiderlin, Michael Carrick, who was just retiring. Do you know, he's had Ander Herrera, who was probably his best partner, I'd say, probably in that time in all them midfielders. He's had McTominay, he's had Fred. Like, if you look all them partners in midfield, he hasn't had that player to kind of really let him go and do what he needs to do in terms of being that creative player. Do you know, he's kind of had to kind of play in a role he doesn't normally play. Like, even at Juventus, he had like Vidal or Marquisio or Pirlo, someone to sit and do that job. Like, he's not a sitting midfield player. And every system he's played in, bar when Ollie first came in, when Ollie played a 4-3-3, Paul Pogba's always played as a sitting midfield player, which isn't his position. And he's played in beside, you know, someone he has to almost help babysit in that midfield. So that's the only thing I'd argue in terms of his time at the club is his midfield partner. But in terms of lack of commitment, like, look, so I don't agree with any of the stuff that his agent comes out and said in the media and, you know, showing the disrespect towards Man United, because Like, no player who plays for a badge should do that. But the only thing I argue with Pogba is the times we've seen the best Paul Pogba at Man United is when we've had a settled midfield and also, a system that works. And we did see that under Solskjaer, towards obviously last season and also when he first came in. Well, I think Ralph Rangnick could be the right manager for him in this next 5 months anyway, in terms of the way he wants to play and wants to do things. And look, if he gets that license to play as a box-to-box player, then look, he should have consistency. But look, I put it this way to the viewers, and I put this way to you both as well. Ralph Rangnick's given him the keys now to play 4-3-3 and play in his natural position beside Bruno. There shouldn't be any excuse now, though, because you're playing your natural position. You're not sitting anymore. You're playing as that number 8. You're playing in that role where you want to play. If you want to put yourself in the shop window, show you're that world-class player, now is the time to do so in that position beside Bruno Fernandes. And look, Scott McTominay has improved that number 6 role. That's one thing I would say since Ralph Rangnick's come in. He's probably, alongside Dalot, he's probably been our best player in these last 6 weeks. So, look, if McTominay can continue that form and continue screening the back four, doing that role, we've 2 great attacking midfielders there. And look, I think in the long term, for me, I probably would still get rid of Pogba in the summer, just on the basis that, look, it frees up a lot of wages, and maybe you can get kind of younger midfield players, and maybe, I'm just throwing names out here, but maybe like a Jude Bellingham, so someone like that, maybe a Yuri Tielemans from Leicester, there's someone like that, players who would actually probably be better for the system and more kind of make the system more well-rounded. But it's one of them things where, look, if we get a sitting midfield player, if we got a Rice in there sitting in midfield, Man United's midfield is solid. You have that one sitting, you have Bruno and Pogba. You have a natural number 6, whereas McTominay is more of a box-to-box midfield player. Being shoehorned into a 6, well, it means he's done well. But if Man United get a Rice and then you have Pogba and Bruno in front of him, then all of a sudden United's midfield is probably the best in the league, probably alongside Man City's. Because Man City's midfield, you have like Rodri, Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne, like that balance is really good. So I think it's all about balance, all about getting the system right and really kind of getting the best out of your players. And I think maybe Rangnick comes in, he can find that formula in these next 5 months to kind of lay the foundations for Ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever that may be. So they all have similar type philosophies in terms of the way they like to play football. So it'll be great to see kind of what happens in these next coming weeks to really see how these players perform. Because there's a lot of players who were crying out for more consistency in these coming weeks and months because we have a tough run in coming soon. But one thing I'd like to touch on, because Lee brought it up, Phil, is Jesse Lingard. Obviously, you'd know better than me, the both of you, in terms of coming through the Man United Academy and really kind of being brought up in the cliff and really coming through Carrington, all them types of things. When you look at the way Jesse Lingard's kind of fallen out at the football club at the moment in terms of posting up pictures in a West Ham jersey, in terms of his brother putting up on social media, he's almost a prisoner at Manchester United. When you look at the overall kind of disrespect he's been showing the club in the last kind of month or so, what's gone wrong in this situation? Do you think is it all on Jesse Lingard that this situation has happened, or do you think maybe do the club maybe need to be held responsible as well in terms of not leaving him go maybe a bit earlier, because he hasn't got his opportunities, which I can see to an extent, right? I'd be unhappy. But at the same time, when we have the depth in positions we have, is there a need to keep him there?
Yeah, it's a sad way to sort of, maybe end the way he's going to, finish his time at the club. I think he's been there for over 20 years and, coming through as a young kid and being at the club for so long, it's such a shame that it's had to sort of, finish off on a sour note, really. In terms of the stuff that he's been doing, I think, that kind of thing never helps. And, in our day, this kind of thing would never have happened because social media wasn't really as prominent as it is now. So you just get on with your business and that'd be that. But nowadays, because of the amount of, publicity and, different distractions and social media, it's obviously an area where players can get distracted. And, he's obviously showing an interest in sort of making a move elsewhere. as you say, the club probably thinking, they've got one eye on looking at, the fixtures and the squad and the amount of players that they've got missing at the moment. If he did go, would it come back and, maybe bite him on the backside a little bit with, the strength in depth at the moment? For me, I feel as though, potentially both could be, held responsible and a bit to blame in terms of Lingard shouldn't be posting things about other teams. And maybe Man United could have given him a couple more opportunities to play some football. But again, that's all in hindsight. And I think for me, Jesse Lingard missed the boat when he obviously went to West Ham, had a really successful loan period, was playing some of the best football he's probably played in a long time. And he could have, potentially moved and got a good move and been playing more regular football at that moment in time. And he didn't choose to, sort of go down that route. And now he's been at Man United. He's been a bit part player. He's come on here and there. He's never really got a run in the team. So he's probably just frustrated. And I think, when you've been on loan and you've done really well and you come back to your parent club, I've done this myself. You feel like you've proved your worth and that you should be given that chance to do it. At the club that you're coming back to, and if it doesn't work, then it just feels as though you're just surplus to requirement and you just not doing anything, and it's really, really sort of frustrating time and period for you. You're training, you're not getting to play in the big games, you're not getting any match fitness. But yeah, I think obviously the decision now needs to just be made. If he wants to leave, then I would let him go. I think he's obviously shown in terms of what he's been doing that he's not happy and that he wants to go on and play football. And from Man United's point of view, I think it's the most sensible thing, as Lee said before. If you're not happy and you're not 100% committed to what's going on and to playing for the club, then you need to leave and move on, and we need to get players in who are and are going to be willing to have the right attitude, fight for the places, and be 100% committed on and off the pitch.
And absolutely, I think especially players in this day and age, I think this wouldn't happen in your time. I think Dave mentions this, and I want to bring this up to you, Lee, because Dave mentions here in the comments that I know we say it wouldn't happen under Sir Alex, but I think that's a disservice to players like yourselves. I feel today's footballers are just not as committing compared to when you guys played. Like Lee, obviously, look, you've came through the academy with Phil. You've played with a lot of academy players who've moved up the football club, but also who've also moved on as well. When you look at this situation, you look at the way it's been handled in terms of our manager is saying one thing, the player is saying another, and this is not the first instance of it. Like, is this a case where the overall way the football club's been dealt with in terms of the management of these players and kind of the player power being a prominent thing? Where do you stand on this? Because player power seems to be overriding Man United at the moment, and it seems to be a case where these players' brands are almost, even though this is not true, but they feel like their brand is bigger than the football club itself.
Yeah, 100%, mate. We've mentioned it now. I don't know how many times on the podcast, and I personally, it does me nothing. If I'm being totally honest with you, how the modern day footballer is, and I take it back to last week's podcast when we was on about different things about how the lads, not just with football, but how young kids grow up these days. They're so mollycoddled now. They're not used to people saying no to them. They're not used to not getting their own way. Prime example is something what's happened this week, which we'll not go into too much detail about. But, stuff like that didn't happen in our days because, we was willing to take advice. We was growing up, but, we grew up in a way where we had respect. Yeah. That's the difference. It's a different culture. Today's society, not just with football, for me, society on the whole, especially with the young kids, and I've got young kids myself. I've got a teenage boy, and I've got a girl who's 11, 12 year old, and it's just the way we grew up is a complete different way now. than what kids grow up this day and age. And I suppose that's the same within a football club. You know, we knew if we would have answered Sir Alex back, we knew we would have been out the door basically. And that weren't a bad thing. That was just, you know, he was your gaffer. He told you what to do, and you did it because you had respect for the gaffer. You had respect for what he did and who he was. And, you know, he was, at the end of the day, he was Sir Alex Ferguson. We played for Man United, which was the biggest club in the world. Don't get me wrong, I can understand why Jesse's, for less of a wanted word, peed off with the situation. Like Phil rightly said, he went on loan to West Ham, did tremendously well, got himself back in the England squad. You don't know what's been promised to Jesse. You know, behind the scenes, he might have been told, you know, come back with.
He was told by the previous manager that he was going to have a prominent role this season.
So you can understand why he's come back. He's been at a club for 20 years. I mean, I went to Shrewsbury on loan. I know it's a much smaller club than West Ham, but when I was at United just after the FA Youth Cup, I went to Shrewsbury on loan. They wanted me there and then, but I'd been at United for, you know, I think it was about 9 years then, and there was no way, you know, if any club would have come in for me that I would have wanted to go anywhere else but go back to Man United, because that was the club that I'd grown up with. That was the club I wanted to play for. You know, and I was there 11 years. You know, Jesse's been there, like Phil said, 20 odd years. You know, he basically all his life, all he's known is being a Man United player. So I can understand why he come back. I can understand his frustrations that he's not got game time, especially when he has had game time at the beginning of the season. You know, he performed really well. Probably deserved to have much more starts or come on a lot more than he has done, you know, in the last 20, 30 minutes. So, I get it. But we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast about, you know, having respect, and we've got lads who left many years ago who we still think the world of at the club. Your Danny Webbers, your John O'Shea's, your Darren Fletchers. They weren't the world's best players, but they were Man United through and through, and they was till the end. And, you know, they're all still very, very fondly thought of within everyone at the club. Now, if Jesse could have just held on and held his tongue and stopped doing silly things on social media, you know, just for another 6 months, then maybe he would have gone down as, you know, not a legend of the club, but, you know, someone who was a Man United player and someone who would have been
a fan favourite.
A fan favourite, mate, yeah, precisely. Fan favourite, which, you know, all he had to do was get his nut down for another 6 months, get his move away, and, you know, everything would have been hunkered over. Unfortunately, is, you know, it's a respect thing at the end of the day, isn't it, for me? The club's made him a multi-millionaire. Well, he's made himself a multi-millionaire, but listen, what other job in the world can you get where you just go and train 5 days a week and earn X amount of hundreds of thousands of pounds or whatever you do? Do you know what I mean? It's most people would only dream of that. So, yeah, I know he wants to be a footballer. I know he wants to play, and he wants to play for England and fulfill his career. But then, you know, have respect for a club that's brought you up from being a kid and seeing you right in life. And that's just my opinion on it.
100%. And I think one thing I'll say about Lingard not moving on, I'll mention one thing now. I'm not making an accusation, but when you see Cristiano Ronaldo come to the club, part of me said he wanted to stay for that Ronaldo effect. Do you know, did he look at Ronaldo come to the club and be like, for his own brand, I'm going to be playing with Ronaldo? Like, all of a sudden, it was looking like he was going to West Ham. Ronaldo came in the door then and was like, all that kind of it hushed up at the time. So, like, I can kind of put a bit of blame on him in that regard, because if you really wanted to go in the summer and you really want to be a first-team player, because even if Ronaldo didn't come in, if you looked at our front three at the time, wasn't guaranteed to start. Pogba was fit, Bruno was fit, Donny van de Beek was still at the club. There's every chance he was barely going to play now. Solskjaer did say that he did go offer Jesse a chance, and Jesse was given promises, but they weren't fulfilled. But deep down, if you look at United's squad when at the start of the season, when we had X, Y, and Z, like, it was always going to be hard to play every week. It really was. Like, even Daniel James was ahead of him when he was at the football club. And no disrespect to Dan James, he was a very hard-working player and done very well for a system. He always worked hard, but for Jesse Lingard in the position he plays, either number 10 on the wing, like, it was always going to be hard for him to nail down a place. Especially you look at the way Rashford played through injury last season, he was still bagging goals. Like, Martial was still at the football club. Like, in 1920, he had a very, good season as well. Not to mention then, like, we have younger players like Hannibal coming up, do you know, like, who I'm going to touch on in a minute. Like, you know, there's a lot of things Lingard could have done. Like, if Lingard really wanted to go, handed a transfer request, he could have done that in the summer. He had plenty of time, you know, to get a move, engineer a move. Like, even in January, Newcastle United came coming. If he handed in a transfer request in, like, if you look at, he said he's wanted to leave formally, right? But Jesse Lingard has not handed in a transfer request yet at this football club. That's a fact. That's a stonewall fact. He hasn't handed in a transfer request. Like, he's only probably said through the media he wants to leave. Like, his brother, though, posting all sorts of BS on social media, and himself as well, posting West Ham pictures. Like, that's saying on social media you want to leave. Well, he hasn't never formally went to the club and handed in that transfer request. He hasn't done that. So, yes, the football club have been tough in negotiations. But look, at the end of the day, Man United, like, when you look at Newcastle coming in for him, Lingard keeps them up, and all of a sudden they go on and spend X, Y, and Z in the summer, and they become a real threat in the top six. Man United don't want that. So United were well within their rights to hold out for whatever loan fee it was. Do you know what I mean? And have whatever relegation clause in that contract, because look, at the end of the day, we're in a position where we have so many players in these positions that, like, look, we're in a strong position as a football club in that regard. No, don't look at our league position. We're not that of a strong position. But, like, if you look at the overall negotiation tactic, like, you know, we're in a strong position. And obviously, look, other events have taken place now where Jesse, now at the moment, look, is going, like, if you're looking at a squad, 1 or 2 injuries and Jesse's in the team. But if you want to leave a football club, there's ways of going about it. There's ways of going about it. Like, you know, I'll bring up an example. He never wanted to leave and go to another club, but I'll bring up an example. Gary Neville, after that West Brom game in 2011, felt like he had no place at Man United anymore. After 45 minutes, he knew he was done. And Gary Neville went to Sir Alex and said, "I want to go. Like, I'm done. I'm finished. I can't contribute." I know it's a different kind of scenario, but there's a respectful way of doing it. You approach your manager and you be like, "Look, I don't feel like being here anymore. I'm not getting enough game time. I want to go. I want to hand in a transfer request. I need to go." That's formal. That's okay. There's a certain level. I mentioned this, like, I think it was 1 or 2 months ago on this podcast. There's certain levels of professionalism that you need to do as a footballer. Not so much even at United, but whatever football club you play for, at whatever level, there's a certain level of respect you give your football club whilst you're signed for them. Jesse Lingard hasn't done that in this last 2 months. In his brother posting up all this stuff on social media, you have himself posting up pictures in a West Ham jersey. Like, there's only so much blatant disrespect that you can take until it comes to a point where, you know, you say, I'm not going to say the word, but, you know, go away. You go away. That's the best thing I can say, you know, in that respect. But
I feel like that's what he's trying to do, though, isn't it? I think that's looking what he's doing. I think that's what he's after the club actually doing to him, is just, listen, just go away now. You know, it's the only reason I can think of doing what he's doing is run out of ideas or whatever. I don't know what he's trying to get out of the club. If he has tried and just gone, you know, can he have a transfer request, and they've said no or whatever. But it just looks now he's just going down the disrespectful route of, well, I'll do your head in until you get rid of me anyway. That's what it looks like to me.
Absolutely, and like, I think I have no problem with a player leaving if they don't think either A, they're good enough, or B, they don't, like, you know, they're not getting enough game time. Like, even though I've been there at certain level I played at, where I knew myself I wasn't getting game time at a certain club, I moved on to somewhere else because, like, you know, I knew I wasn't good enough to play for that certain football club at that time. Like, there's ways of respectfully, you know, going about these things. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, Jesse Lingard hasn't done that. And, like, with our academy players, right, we have a certain level of, I suppose, adulation towards them, because we'll always look after one of our own that bit more as a fan base. Do you know what I mean? Anthony Elanga is a massive example of that. He's really kind of, you know, really enlightened the fan base. And look, that song is an absolute banger. But, like, Anthony Elanga is someone who we've warmed to in these last month or so because he's playing for the badge. He's one of our own young fella come from the academy, and we'll all support him and fully back him. Like, this is the thing about this. Jesse's been at the club 20 years, you've mentioned, lads, and absolutely. There's a certain level of respect when you go through your education at Man United where, there's only a certain amount of allowances you give some of respect before they've crossed the line, and he really has. And I can understand next time he plays for Man United that he might get booed. Now, I don't condone that. I'd never boo any of our players. I never would. I wouldn't be shocked because it happened to Martial a few weeks ago when he made his last appearance for United. Albeit he came on and played fantastically well, but the fans showed their frustration with how his actions, in terms of how he openly wanted to leave the club and how on social media he showed the club disrespect. So, I think Jesse needs to realise that, yes, look, you want to go. Yes, I can understand. Look, there's the World Cup this year. You want to play football. We can understand that. But when you go out there and you have a massive platform, you have millions and millions of people following you, you have all of that, and then you blatantly go out and disrespect the football club, then, look, there's so much that we can take before we say, go away, that's it. We don't want you to play for the football club anymore. I think most of the fan base is at that point now. And I'm at that point, and I love Jesse Lingard, the player, in terms of his qualities, in terms of what his movement, what he does on and off the ball, his intelligence as a footballer. But his overall demeanour at the moment, his overall personality at the minute, I don't like it. I really don't. And it's just one of these things now where, look, he's obviously here now to the end of the season. Look, I support him while he's on the pitch, but my feelings towards him, aren't as big as what they were 6 months ago, in that respect. So, I'm kind of like that see you later type of thing. But final thing I want to touch on tonight, because obviously, look, we talked about youth players, and we talked about players who we love coming out of the academy. Phil, you know best. Lee, you know best. You come out of that academy and you put on that shirt for the first team. There's no better feeling than that. There's one man in the squad tonight who can make his Old Trafford first team debut for Manchester United, and that's young Hannibal. He's on the bench tonight, and he looks like he's going to get a game for Manchester United tonight. Phil, when you look at being an attacker, you've obviously been in similar shoes to Hannibal, kind of making your debut and kind of having that anticipation of putting on that Manchester United shirt. What do you think Hannibal's overall emotions and kind of mentality is right now? Kind of, I suppose you're on the bench here. You're alongside players like Juan Mata. You're alongside players like the Man United experienced players. You're sitting alongside them. You're probably getting that bit of a voice before you come out. But you look out in that pitch and you see Pogba, Ronaldo, Hernandez, Rashford. What's his overall emotions right now? What do you think he's thinking right now? Kind of so close to kickoff right now, and potentially making his first team kind of debut at Old Trafford.
Oh, it'll be absolutely buzzing. I think, for any young player, when you're involved with the first team, just, everything about it, you're soaking it all up. You're obviously absolutely, buzzing to be there in and around, some of the big names, the crowd, the fans. He'll be on, cloud nine, and he will be for probably, a lot of days to come afterwards, because you don't sort of come straight back down after being involved with the first team. And, if he makes his debut tonight, that'll be, a really proud moment for him, and he'll be sort of, absolutely ecstatic for a few days after that, no doubt. But yeah, it's one of them times where you're speaking to the players, you're seeing how they do things, you're watching him. Obviously, he's hoping he's going to come on at some point in the game. Ideally, you want the game to be sort of dead and buried, and you can bring him on, and there's no real pressure on him. He can just come on and enjoy it and try and express himself for the time he comes on. But no, I think, he's there on merit. I think, I've not really seen loads of him, but what I have seen, I'm really impressed. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of talent, and, Ralph picked him and thought that he's been doing enough in the 23 to warrant, that step up. And, as I say, he'll be there on merit. So good luck to him. I'm hoping he can, get some time in the game tonight, because obviously it's a massive moment for any player, especially, making your debut for Manchester United. There's not many bigger moments, I'm sure, that he'll have in his career. So yeah, fingers crossed for him that he can come on and do himself justice, and maybe this is the kind of moments where, when you do make your first team debut and you come on, and if you do impress and you do sort of make a little bit of an impact, then you might get a little run in the team, or you might stay in the squad for a few weeks, and then that's what you need. Sometimes you need that little bit of a break, or that little bit of a sort of opportunity, or the manager might take to him and think, I like his qualities, and good luck to him, because I think, as I said, he's got a lot of potential, and he could be, one for the future. So hopefully he can get the ball rolling tonight and get his debut.
Absolutely. I've watched him through the 23s, like Ahmad, Short, Thierry, like they're my three favorites in the 23s. Like they're really good. Shout out to Charlie Savage as well. He's another class player. I often talk to John Savage on Twitter. Charlie's another good player. Though, someone who can definitely come up and definitely get a game in the men's team. But yeah, look, Hannibal is going to be a world beater. I agree with Dave. Like he has that arrogance. Like he had when you look at a Man United player and you look at a Man United attacker, and when they take on a player, and when they get kicked, but they get back up and they take your man on again, and they show that bit of aggression. But that's what Hannibal is. Like, I remember watching him a game in the 23s last season. Yes, he got sent off. He was getting kicked all over the shop. Hannibal got up, and though he got in the other player's face, and sometimes people might say it's lack of discipline. But like for me, I look at Hannibal, and I look at him. He's like, he has that raw talent. He has that aggressiveness. He has that, aura to play for Man United. And I think if that kind of aggressive nature can be harnessed into a discipline player, but also let him express himself in terms of his style of playing, beating a player, I think he's someone who can definitely be foil for Fernandes. I think Fernandes is a fantastic player, but I think Hannibal, given the game time, can be competition. And I'm not understating that. I think he is a serious talent. And there's no surprise, like the minute Ralph Rangnick came to the club, reports were coming today, there was leaks coming out of the football club that Hannibal was getting that first team call up. Now, he had the Arab Cup, and then he had AFCON since Ralph's come here. So he's been playing international football for the guts of 2 months, really, since Ralph's come to the football club. But in a couple of training sessions that Ralph had with him, he was impressed. And he's like, after these 2 competitions, I'm bringing Hannibal in. And look, the second he's back from AFCON, a week, couple of 6 days, and he's in the squad. So look, I think he's definitely someone who can make the squad. I think we talked about Lingard. If Lingard leaves, there's your replacement. You don't have to buy him. You don't have to go off and pay 30-40 million for a player. You have a player in there who can definitely slot in him. Learn off these players, learn off Fernandes, Ronaldo's, players like that. So look, I'm happy for him, and look, hopefully he gets a game tonight, because I'd love to see him showcase his talent in front of 76,000 or how many thousand there at Old Trafford tonight, because we all know when a young attacker comes into a team of Man United and they go in front of Old Trafford and they light up the place. We've seen it with Ronaldo. We've seen it with Rashford. We've recently seen it with Elanga. Like we back our youngsters to the last. Yeah. We really, really do. So hopefully he makes a shine tonight. Lee, just your thought just before we kind of get our score predictions. The match is going to kick off in about 5 minutes. Just give your overall thoughts. Just obviously Hannibal coming up through the academy, and the fact that Ralph Rangnick, since he's come in, he's put a really big kind of, I suppose, emphasis on the academy and wanting to promote young players.
Yeah. I'll try to keep it as quick as I can, because I know we've only got a few minutes, but I'll listen to what he was just saying. Then first thing I was thinking was fantastic. The squad's a little lighter now. We've got rid of, a few players. Gives a few of the young lads, a boost of confidence to know that if they're training well, then they're gonna get the chance, which is Man United's philosophy. It always has been. The academies, we've always had a great academy. We've always give the academy lads a chance. And what a better way now to these lads to start getting game time than having a manager who believes in the philosophy which Man United have always had, bringing the young lads through. I think it's going to be exciting to the end of the season to see a few of these young lads who obviously have done really well in the 23s getting their opportunity. And I just hope they take it with both hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, for me, I'm hoping Elanga, I hope Hannibal. I said this, I think, on 2, 3, 4 podcasts ago. Some might correct me on how many podcasts ago it was. If Reese in the comments, you'll correct me. But Ethan Laird is the one for me next season. Laird for me.
When you said that, I watched what they call a montage of him, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it were, and he does look like some player, to be fair. Yeah,
Ethan Laird. He done well at MK Dons, played on real Swansea this year. Now he's just gone to Bournemouth. Unknown. United wants him to work on Parker. He's going to be the one next season. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka have serious competition next season.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised under a more attacking manager that he plays a lot more football next season, because he has that balance between kind of defence and attack. And I'd kind of Ethan Laird is kind of very similar to what Reece James is in terms of the style of defender. So for me, he's the one to watch next season. He's a really, really good player. And look, I think we need an attacking fullback. We really, really do. Even though Dalot is doing well, but we kind of need an attacking fullback who can also defend. Because I think sometimes Dalot does have the tendency to get caught when he goes forward. But look, hopefully, if Laird comes in next season, I think he's someone who can definitely make a stamp. And look, the more academy players that come through, the better. Because alongside ours and Chelsea, we have the best 2 academies in England at the moment. Obviously, Man City are starting to build something with their academy as well. But if you look at us and Chelsea, we develop the most players who come out of their academies, and that's a fact. And I think United just need to continue that tradition, and that's why I hope either Ten Hag or Pochettino come in, because them two especially will definitely bring through young players. And look, United's young players always shine, but there's no starting 11 predictions here in the show because Ralph said you have to name it. So Ralph, you should have named it 5 minutes before kickoff, so we could have made a prediction. But I know that's not the procedure. Anyway, we have score predictions for tonight, and just like to point out again, because me and Phil had the podcast once, I got a score prediction right on the last match preview. So I'm it's 14-1 to Phil at the moment, and Lee they've got more score predictions right than I have. So I have a bit of catching up to between now and the end of the season. But I'm going to get the lads' score predictions on the show, and look, on next Thursday we will review our predictions. Phil, what is your score prediction for tonight's game?
Yeah, I said it before. I think I'm quite confident tonight with the quality that's on display. I think we should be, convincingly beating Middlesbrough. So I'm just going to go for a 3-0 win.
I was going to say 3-0.
Oh, well, I've got it in before Lee. So I'm going to go for a 3-0, but I'm actually going to just add that I think Hannibal will come on and have a goal contribution in the second half as well. I'm going to say 2-0, and then he's going to come on and maybe get an assist or have a hand in some way in the goal. So I'm going to go for
he'll get the pre-assist.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's my prediction for tonight.
Good. We'll have to review it after that happens. Lee, what's your score prediction for tonight?
It was 3-0, but I'm not going the same as Phil. So I'm gonna be optimistic as usual. I'm gonna go for a cheeky 4-1 victory tonight.
Oh fuck! That was my score prediction. Shit.
Just go 6-0 then. Just go 6-0, Keane.
No, I'm not going 6-0. I'll go 3-1 then, and I'm going to throw in an extra prediction. I'm going to go with Man United to finally score from a set piece tonight. I don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're 118 corners into the season. We haven't scored from one yet.
I wonder if it's that set piece course keeps keeping his job.
I don't know. He should be down the job centre with Rafa Benitez at the moment. But look, I'm not going to drive that agenda because people just accuse me of being an absolute negative Nancy. But look, I'm going to go 3-1 and go United score from a set piece. And I'll go one further and let's say Rafael Varane get his first goal for Man United tonight. But look, it's been a great show tonight. Thanks very much to Phil and Lee for coming on as always. It's been a great chat. And thanks to everyone in the comments tonight. Really enjoyed the show here tonight. And Reese has said here, if we finally score for a set piece, then Keane is buying rounds for all of us. I think it's the other way around. If we score for a set piece, the two boys are buying me around next week. That's what happens there. But look, hopefully we get the 3 points. Hopefully we go through to the next round and look, we get that road to a trophy because we are absolutely starving for success right now. But I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for coming on tonight, and thanks everyone for viewing and who will watch on the replay as well. And look, let's hope Manchester United get the win because that's the most important thing. But until then, we'll see you next Thursday on the podcast, and do check out all the other podcasts here on Talk the Devil's fantastic YouTube channel. Don't forget to smash a like in the video, and also hit that subscribe button as well. We are on the road to 4K, so do help us to reach that, and do continue showing your support for the channel. A lot more interesting content coming up in these next weeks and months. But until then, guys, thanks very much everyone for watching, and look, we'll see you next week.